Good afternoon, Mr. J. How are you?
Mrs. Clark, how are you?
Thank you for agreeing to let me sit in on your class. It was actually a very nice experience. I normally don't, and I've never taught summer school, but it actually was very good to be able to sit in and see what goes on in a summer school classroom. What I
Anytime, anytime.
Okay, what I have in front of me on my screen is the lesson plan, and it's a lesson plan just for the reading section since that's the only class that I did sit through was the reading language arts portion. And then I also have the notes that I typed up from the class, and then I have my analysis or my observation notes that I'm going to share with you now. Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. So the notes that I took it in a detached, open-ended narrative format, which simply means I just sat and I just kind of type everything that I saw, which means everything that I saw on the board, as well as everything that I heard, or much of what I heard, as well as what I saw in terms of how the students actually responded, and then what the roles of the adults in the room were. So that's pretty much basically what I recorded. As I Parts of my recorded or of my observation included my noticing that the classroom was set up in groups, in table groups, and that there were two or three individual student desks that were on opposite sides of the room. And I just made the assumption, and I think I was correct, that those seats were actually for students who could not or needed to be removed from the group setting. And in fact, there was one young man sitting in the back already when I came in, and then there was another young man who was moved into one of the seats because he was having some difficulties with his group.
That's correct. They are placed in those common app settings.
Okay. Okay. Now, at the beginning of the lesson, the general educator did a read aloud with a book. And it lasted for a very long time, longer than I would have thought that a read aloud would last. I did look at the objective that was on the board and noticed that you were trying to improve their sight words, as well as their actually reading abilities. But the children actually never had a chance to read themselves, even though, the one young man who was moved to a separate seat, he actually was very, very actively engaged in the story. It looked like he was following very well. He asked questions, and he even um, posed some scenarios into what was going on in the story.
He does enjoy listening to the stories that they're read aloud. That piece of the class was longer because the students like you noticed
Right. Okay. And I also did notice that when they transitioned from the reading time into their individual work time, that each student had their own folder with their own already prepared work, and that the adults, the general educator, as well as the special educator, as well as the dedicated aide, kind of positioned yourselves at each of the table and was available and ready whenever the students had questions or if they needed refocusing. Okay. Um, I did also notice that the children did work at their own pace, that you all did not say, now turn to page so and so and complete this particular activity. And they pretty much opened and they started to work on their own. There was one young man who I did notice though, he was working on his math sheets as opposed to his reading language arts sheets.
Had math goals for the entire summer. So this entire package
Oh, okay. Okay, I see. So that explains that. And then I noticed that towards the end or midway through the lesson, or maybe about two-thirds of the way in the lesson, a young man came in and he was late. And he turned in a badge. Is that a badge that they get when they first come into the building? And then he was put in with the other badges. And then he sat down, and this was during the story time, and he tried to listen, but then after a minute or two, he kind of put his head down, but he didn't really try to sleep. He just seemed not quite engaged. And then eventually he did kind of, start to listen quietly. And then when you transition to the work, he opened his book, and then you had to give him a little bit of prompting to get him started. And then, of course, I think he was one of the ones who didn't have a writing utensil. So then you had to find all those things and provide it for him.
the student that you're talking about who came to school late, all students are given a badge when they come off of the school bus or when they enter the school bus.
Oh, I see. Okay. 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 Now, I did notice that some of the other kids did put their heads down and they did seem a little not engaged. So I may have misread that reaction as well. And I also noticed that there was only one female student in the entire group of 13, 12, 13. And then most of them, I want to say maybe about 90% of them were were English language appeared to be English language learners. Right, I did notice. Okay, 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 okay. Now, what accommodations or what differentiation was made for those students who were English language learners? Um, was it something that was made in their specific book that they had, their specific binders that they had?
always there to assist at the table, but the
Right.
majority of the work is done based on needs from their school.
Okay, all right, I understand that. Now, the last question, is there opportunity for them to do, and it might not have been observable when I was there, it might have been later on the day, but is there opportunity for them to actually collaborate and work on projects, or maybe take field trips, or do things that require a little bit more movement?
That's not part of the ESY program. They don't have interest.
Okay, 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 okay. All right, thank you. All right, thank you once again for allowing me to sit in. I did learn a lot, and through our conversation, actually, I learned a lot about the extended school year program. Some things that I actually did not know. So this was a very, very, very rich experience. Again, Mr. J, thank you. I enjoyed the experience. Thank you for allowing me to come in the classroom. I learned a lot. And moving forward, I have a new view of the ESY program. Okay.